Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, all my blessed beloveds out there in video land. You're watching Living and Thriving with Rusty, and I am Rusty. I am at the end of season 2, YouTube, and I want to thank everybody for watching, subscribing, hitting that bell, hitting the like buttons, leaving positive comments. The trolls are what they are. And season 3 is going to be more exciting. It's amazing what I get to do and how many people I get to meet and what things we get to discuss. Today's guest is Scott Harris, and he's logging in right now. He's going to tell us who he is, what he does, and what makes him him. I love it. Eventually he'll log in. Eventually. I hear something. Hello? Maybe he's taking a nap. Well, I don't know if he can't hear me or if he's taking a nap or...
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I'm having a conversation with your title.
Oh, okay, hold on. I just turned this on and I was just walking around. So let me, let's see.
There you are. Hi, Scott.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
1 minute. I was just going to finish getting ready. Give me just a minute. I'll be right back. But we're starting at 11, right?
Yeah, about 6 minutes.
Okay.
So now that we're all settled in, Scott's joined us, and we are recording live-ish. That's recording, that's not live. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Scott, what I understand from your information that was sent over is that you like to create an environment in which one can feel at home and healing. So explain that a little bit.
From coming from a tougher childhood, I guess we've all had them, I realized how healing a home can be, because we spend, and you realize that you spend 89% of your life inside of structures. A bigger section of it is in the home. It's the place when you're not feeling well that you go home to. And so I believe the home is the haven that does heal us on so many levels. And, then from doing it professionally for so many years, you recognize it's true, it works, right? You do these homes, and it's about listening to the client's needs and what their wants. People say, what's your favorite style? My favorite style is bringing happiness and peace to my clients.
I'm a diehard for open spaces. I cannot in any way, shape, or form have anything clustered, or I don't like a lot of things. I don't like to dust. I think that's part of it.
Dust is it's kind of unavoidable though, but yeah, it's a thing. Yeah, it's part of it is just creating an environment that feels natural and clean, and in a perfect environment, you can walk through it without having to be cluttered even in your mind with all these questions and thoughts as to what is that? Why did they put that there? How did that happen? When everything just lines up and it's in its place. As much as you're talking about clutter, there's also visual clutter in the buildings too. If I don't have to look at a switch on a wall and say, why did they put it there? I don't understand as I'm laying in bed. Just makes your life a little bit better. But
yeah.
The
house that we're renting right now, they evidently moved the ceiling fan. So it's very bizarre because they left the metal plate instead of covering it up and making it go away. So you have the metal plate of where the ceiling fan used to be, and like 6 inches over the ceiling fan's there. And I'm going, yeah, Hmm.
Well, but it make you, to your point, it just makes you look at that and, and question. And there's too many of those things. It takes away from your piece. But
True.
good news that they didn't cover it, because I can't tell you how many times I've seen those covered up. Um, we found you cannot stretch out wiring. So the only way if you have to move a light switch or move an outlet over, you can't stretch the wires. So what you have to do is you use it as a junction box, and then you put a new one in. And what we see, unfortunately, happen in those situations is they'll put drywall or paint over it and they bury it. And in the event that you ever have a short or something that happens, you don't know where that box is anymore. And you can't go back to pull the wires, right? Like, so on your ceiling fan, if somebody makes a little tug on a wire as they're putting it in, and it just disconnected from the box and nobody can find it again, you're tearing the whole wall open to figure out where that was. So
No,
they
I
did it the
know.
right way.
But it's one of those things, like throw up a smoke detector or something, because now I can't do my yoga and look up. I have to do it in a different room because it drives me crazy.
So there you go.
What's your state or country?
It's state is California.
Okay.
State of mind is always anxious. And state I live in is in California.
Okay. And so you have a lot of influence there, a lot of individuals who are interested in revamping their space to be more accommodating to their mental and emotional needs.
Yeah, we have, we're based in Los Angeles, and there's a lot of influential people that we work for or work with. And, on some level, you try to influence them and hope that they'll influence others. I think one of our bigger clients was Ed Begley Jr., who is one of the biggest influencers that I'm aware of, at least in the environmental realm, because he's just so vocal about it, and he's an actor, so it's just easy for him to talk about it to everybody. And so I think that was influential in what we did for him. And there's a lot of interest from the media. So I think that was really good. And then there's other times you do something and you can't talk about it. You've influenced that one person, or that we did the Playboy Mansion as well, but that was the one thing you can't talk about. This was before Hefner passed, so.
Right. He was very private, which is interesting because in a lot of ways he showed a display of hedonistic voyeurism, and I think in his personal life he was very private.
Yeah, it was an interesting group because they were very private, and from what I was told, if it's true, I'm sure people have been lied to over there at the mansion before. But I don't mean that in a bad way. But
I know.
They said that all of the construction work that had been done through the history of the ownership of the home while Hefner had owned it was done by their own teams. Mm-hmm. So they kind of kept everything in house. They had their own construction teams, their own zoo team, whatever it was, they were all on staff. And so they said, we're going to bring you in as the first time is bringing somebody on the outside to help us do it. So it was an honor.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what is your company's name so that when individuals watch this, they can go, oh, I have more questions?
The company name is Building Construction Group, and our website is buildingcgroup.com. And if anyone wanted to reach me directly, it's scott@buildingcgroup.com.
All right. And are you inside and outside?
Inside and outside, meaning?
Do you do work inside and outside? Some construction companies are just structural, not landscape, architecture, that kind of thing.
We do everything. We also, our sister company or brother, whatever you want to call it, does architecture, interiors, landscape design. And then this other company we have runs the construction side of it. So when we do a home, sometimes we're usually paired up with either something from our teams or another team. And, you're building these estates that encompass everything down to figuring out what food they're going to put in the refrigerator and how tall their shelves should be. So there's nothing, you basically provide a plot of land and, have the funds to be able to afford to build what you want to do, and we do the rest.
So I've never had a construction company on the show before, so this is a little intriguing to me because I find myself semi-speechless. I'm not really quite sure where to go with this. What is your interest in the more spiritual world personally? You must have some passion about. I don't like to say feng shui because I think it's so yesterday.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying, an organization and having a home that you can come home to and go, huh.
I mean, to answer your question on the spiritual realm, I've always been this soul that just could connect with people and things on a level that not everybody talks about. You know, um, uh, you can call it psychic, intuitive, or whatever you want. And and I think what's interesting too about feng shui is it is a historical process, but it's kind of evolved into so many other things. It became kind of a title, and people forgot really what it was about. But it really was about the synergy of the home originally. It started out with some original rules about how to, just the way Europe and everyone has all these kinds of rules. And the ones that really, I think, worked are the ones that stayed, because everyone's always creating a rule on how to build and create your special space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have to put some value on the things that actually stood the test of time for hundreds of years. But it was interesting when I looked into it more, not that I'm anywhere like an expert, but it was interesting that, it came a lot from just the functional aspects originally of what was required to have a house, where to place the house on the lot. And it was interesting that the beginning of that was the same group that, had created the compass and didn't exist before. So they understood north, south, east, and west. And then they started lining up properties, or their homes on these grids on the earth, which today we still do. So every time we line up a house on north, south, east, west, we're actually practicing some degree of feng shui by lining up on mathematical on the grids of the earth.
I think you have to be very spiritually aware of positioning. I think most people right now just like to plop things down and call it theirs. So I think people with intentional living have a different focus, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, there's some you always have the people that want to do it for how they want to be seen, right? And or what they've seen. And there's some people that are just holistically doing it for what's best for they and their family. Um, I ultimately, you're welcome to do it however you want, but I think it's nicer when people are really doing it for themselves or their family and putting their family first, which I think most of our clients do. So we try to encourage that because it really is a healing thing. And, when you're, while I'm a contractor and I probably don't really look or, sound like most of the other people that are in it, it's a medium for creating things for people, and what you're doing is on some level, you're taking what they want without them understanding how to articulate it as well as they may want to. And you're translating it into something tangible for them. And everyone's got this vision and image of what their homes are supposed to look like. And there's so many other things that has to do with the cost, the zoning, the architects, everyone's, impressions, what mom wants. But ideally you are on a good level, you're connecting with that client and you're creating what it is that they want. And many times they find what they're asked for isn't even really what they want. So
yes, I found that to be true with a lot of things.
I was a number of years ago, I was doing a project for a Victoria principal, and she went through this whole diatribe of what she wanted. And she's like, I want this and this and this and this. And then she says, sweetheart, why didn't you write any of this down? I see there's no notes. I said, well, when you were talking, I could hear something. I could hear another level of communication. And I more was watching. I was listening, but I could hear everything that you wanted. But everything that you really wanted didn't actually match up with anything that you were saying. So
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to what you ultimately wanted, less of what you were actually. And I was going to try to give you that and see if that was a hit. Um, she kind of took it by surprise. She's like, caught her off guard. It's like, it's that's, I like this. And so, but it's interesting because, I think we sound off what we think we want. And there's something else inside our soul that we want something different. I did this show on HGTV, and it was doing a home for a family, and they said, this is exactly what they want. But I heard something very different. And I remember, like, in the middle of the show, as the home is being created, they said, Scott, she's outside in the car crying because you're not giving her what she wants. You got to change it. And I said, I am giving her what she wants. She just doesn't realize it yet.
Right.
And, they're like, well, this could be good for TV. Yeah, this is great. Maybe we'll get her. And then the turnout, and I mean, it was very different. It wasn't really an ego thing that I was trying to put forth what I liked. It was just what I felt like was the right thing for them.
And ultimately, at the end, did she stop crying and she was like, wow?
No, I was wrong with that. No, I'm kidding. No, but no, she's like, this is amazing. And I think, we became good friends. And for years, I just get, every so often, I'll get a phone call from her. And sometimes it's concerning, 3 years later to get a phone call from a client because your mind jumps to, oh God, what happened? Did something go wrong in the house? And then she says, I really need to thank you for like pushing me through to that level, because I sit here every day and look at this and I realize this is exactly what I wanted. It's what I told you I wanted was what I wanted then, but you made what I really wanted now. And you saw that. And I need to let you know and say, I'm sorry for those, those times. And thank you for doing what I wanted. And I now understand it. So
let's get into a little bit of nitty gritty. Let's have a little bit of fun with this, because again, I've never had a construction company on here. Usually it's a very different conversation. So I want to have a little fun. Talk to me about the first steps that you would recommend for somebody when they're really thinking about how they want to construct their dream home, or in my case, RV. I mean, that's my big dream right now. I like to be minimal.
Right.
Age.
I mean,
but, things for people to chew on and think about when it comes to constructing something like this, because I think we have in our minds like country cottage, or all those little magazines that you see in the grocery store, which
right.
I don't even remember what they're called anymore. Home and Gardens, I think, is one.
Right.
And then for those people who watch TV, they have all these inspiring things, tips and tricks that they think that they want. But when it really comes down to the push and shove, like you were saying, we have a lot of resistance to what we want versus what we think we want. So how do you help people bridge the gap other than letting them cry in a car?
Right. It made a good point, and something that's interesting to be aware of from being on both sides is that what you see telegenically and photographically show up that looks good. And this doesn't apply to everything, but there's certain guidelines that you do, and often the colors that look great in a photograph don't look good in real life. And so if your goal is to produce something for TV or produce something that's going to be photographed for Better Homes and Garden or something, there's things you might otherwise do that look amazing in the photographs, like the high contrast looks bright, and that green wall popping, and the overexposure with the sunny window just beaming in. So while it's great, we've just had a lot of times clients that I've seen this in a picture and I want to do it, but ask yourself, was that done for the photograph to look good, and does it really feel good in real life? And often it can be both. But I think the best thing is to trust your instincts and tour different spaces and just get a sense of what brings you peace. It's not a bad idea. It's a good thing to look around and kind of start to set the guardrails on what you're looking for, what you like and definitely don't like. But next level to tune that in is to actually sit in the space. I'm over at Marie's house and I don't like the way this feels. And take note of what's there. It's too opulent. It's not opulent enough. I mean, everyone's taste is different, right? And, when you go over to Jennifer's house and it's like, This feels great. I mean, looks boring, but it's just a lot of white walls and there's a big window and just a big couch, but I'm actually happy here. So you want to really take note of how you feel in these spaces. I mean, if you think of, if you take homes out of the context of them being a home and everything that's emotionally associated with it, and you think of it as more as an outfit, it would be normal to try on. Like when we buy clothes, something might look good on on somebody else or looks great in a picture, but you need to always try that on, wear it and see if it fits. And so if you do that, it's the same thing. If you try on homes or try on these different environments and see how they fit you, it's a good place to start. And then from there, your goals would then be to, ideally you want to write everything, start putting it down and like what you're looking for, because it's very helpful to give that to a design team. And the next steps are to find a good design team. Some people will just only hire an interior designer, and some don't only hire architect. And it's interesting that really to do it right, you actually want to hire the whole group to get the symphony, because everyone has their understandable ideas of why they want to do it. And when you bring in more of the team, what they do is they kind of offset each other and they keep each other better in balance. So, some architects may have some vision or dream of exactly how they build all their homes. And you have an interior designer but if you get a team that's willing to listen to what your needs and wants are, and you can get a bigger group of people together as far as professionals, you stand a better chance of actually achieving what it is that you want.
I think it's really important. I remember when I built my house, my ex-husband and I built a 2,500 square foot home, very modest. But we literally physically built it. And I remember having a 3-ring binder with pockets, because anything that I touched, because I'm a texture person, if I really liked it, I wanted to somehow incorporate that. So I had a binder of all the colors that I wanted, the texture, the kind of flooring, that kind of thing. But you have to do it in person. That's so important. And then you have to think about repairs. At least for me personally, I hate wallpaper. Absolutely hate wallpaper. Hate it. It's not easy to repair. It's a lot of work. I don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah. It's no, it's true. I mean, that's why everyone is so personal, and so this is why it's your personal haven. You've got to really understand what it is that you want. We have clients that come to us with. I have one that said, "I don't like medicine cabinets. I think medicine cabinets are for the less fortunate people." And we have others where I have the most glamorous medicine cabinets that are just, they've got TV screens built into the mirrors. They're just lined with this beautiful Starfire glass, and it looks like a Rolls Royce inside. So that's what that client wanted. And one client says, "I don't like, recessed lighting." And another says, "I want so much of it, I want to be able to do surgery on the table." So everyone is so different. There isn't a right or wrong when you're doing these homes. It really has to be listening to what it is that that person wants and what you want. But you gotta know first what you want. And I'm sure I know there's people a lot more successful in this business and world than I am, but one of the things that's worked well has been to really listen to the client's needs, what their wants are. And it's joyous to get that call 2 years later, which I do for many clients. And even Ed Begley called and he said, "That piece of crown molding that you said, like, you'll pay half because it's so important to have." I sit here and I have my coffee in the morning and I look up at that crown molding every day and I just say, "Thank you, Scott, because that really is what this room needed. I can't imagine it without there. I feel wealthy. I feel luxurious now. And you got it out of recycled materials, so I'm even happier about it." So,
what types of things do you suggest people look out for when they are hiring their team?
It's credibility, honesty, experience. It's an interesting field because at least for construction, you're pulling from a group of people that, for the most part, didn't actually have an opportunity to go to college. Because you can't get a degree in constructionology or you can't be a constructionologist. And so you have all walks of life in that industry. And you have somebody who was an actor who just kept, banging the hammer and just decided to stay with it. And you have somebody that maybe went to business school and saw this as a great opportunity and did construction management and really built it into a company. So there's quite a range of people that you get from the construction side. I think not all of them are amazing, and that's why construction can have a negative connotation. But it's really important to find the right team. And best thing to do is to talk to some of their past clients. And look, everybody always has a friend or a sister or a client that's willing to vouch, and there's like those go-to people. So what I recommend doing is I say, look, what I'd like to do is because we're a matchmaker as the contractor. We're hiring all these groups as well, and we're managing it. So when we're interviewing, I like to see not just a set of references for them, but I'd like to see the current project, because you're only as good as your last project. We've had teams that were amazing for 20 years and somehow in the 21st year, something went wrong. People have personal life issues, things change. Maybe there was 3 people there that were running the show that made it amazing. They left, but you still think you're hiring the same group. So an important tip is to go and not only ask for references, but say, I want to talk to current references that you are working with today, because in the construction industry, most people have some degree of frustration going through the process. It's expensive, it's dirty, it's loud. You always have variables that not everyone can control. And so if you can talk to people that are still saying, I love this team, they're great during the process, that's a good sign. Same with architects. I recommend that with architects and interior designers. I think most people are usually proud of their architects and interior designers. You get good referrals, but the people that are on the ground that's actually creating the structure are really an important facet of it. And that's one of the reasons, I used to do architecture, I used to do design. It's just, I felt there was a hole in the industry for a company out there that could actually more professionally take all this information and actually build professionally build these structures. There's many that do it. There's many that do it better than we do. But I think we're in the top several percent of companies that do it the way we do it.
Well, and I think that's exciting. It's true that there is a stigma surrounding construction workers, which drives me a little bananas, because we wouldn't have what we have now if it wasn't for our builders and our concrete people and our pipe layers and, the stucco dudes. I don't know how the stucco dudes do stucco, but Lord, it's a pain in the bottom. It's beautiful. I mean, it is beautiful to me. I like the texture, but Lord, it's a lot of work, a lot of layering. And, it's a tough job. It's very physically intensive. And I'm sure in Concrete Kingdom where you live is just as hot as South Florida where I live, and they're up there, they're on the roof and they're sweating and banging and doing the work. So I have a huge respect for the construction industry as a whole, because we need them. And they work darn hard. I mean, that's some of the hardest working people I think I've ever met.
Yeah, they are hard workers. And I mean, not to underestimate, there's different kinds of hard things, working hard with your mind can be exhausting, but you have to recognize that what they're doing is they're taking a toll on their body. They are physically sacrificing their body. They are, one thing to add to that is this, they're putting their lives at risk every day. The person that's on the roof has a bad day. It's not good when you're on the bottom of, down by the pool. Not everyone does all the appropriate safety gear, so they just get tired, And there's just even best attempts to be safe. When you're up there lifting these major cranes and steel, and anything can really go wrong. I mean, that's why they call them accidents. And the framers, I mean, God bless them, and getting up there and they're balancing as they're creating a framework before there's safety. It's nice after it's all framed, we put up all the safety protection, but during the process of making, it's quite a dangerous thing. And
Yeah.
just the machines that you're using, right? Just one of the, just one of those little saws or something kicks off or goes back, and you know, I've seen some very unfortunate accidents through the years that just somebody didn't know how to use it, or just machine slipped or something malfunctions, and a blade, a carbide blade rotating 10,000 rotations per minute, and that thing goes off, you know. And you think about like the other things that we do in the industry. You have a bad day, I forgot to sign it. I sent the email out before. There's a lot of the oops that you happen out there that we all have, or just a oops, I'll fix it tomorrow. The oops in the construction industry can be, you can take your life. And there's also, you're exposed to a lot of hazards, and just even the chemicals that you're around. And so the paints and everything, while they're a lot cleaner than they used to be, there's still a fair amount of dust and things that we're surrounded by. So it's, you know, to go out there every day. And the truth is, everyone has their protective gear, but people get tired. They take it off. You know, I'm tired of wearing the mask. I've seen painters in paint shops, and I went to inspect some cabinetry in Amish country. And, you know, all the standards here in California are amazing for the clean air and for this, you know, zero VOC paints. Well, I mean, when I went over to that factory, I mean, I think you're like, my eyebrows were starting to melt off, and your eyes are just melting. And you see somebody in there just, you know, covered with this paint and spraying it. And, you know, the standards didn't get over there. And you just look at it and say, God, I love this paint finish. But, you know, we don't realize that people, they're sacrificing their life, their value of life and the length of their lives if they're not careful. So it's, our company is very careful about safety protocol. We do safety meetings, and we go through great extents to make sure. But as an industry as a whole, it's, you're really giving up a lot to construct a home for people. And I do think it's maybe not as appreciated, valued, because they see it as labor.
Well, you know, and that's where the price comes in. And I think that people forget the human side of the process and how they actually deserve what they're getting paid. And some of
Right.
them, I've seen some construction firms really abuse that, you know, and obviously those firms aren't around anymore,
Right.
but you know what I'm saying, because you're in the industry too. So our hourglass has come to an end. And I just want to thank you for sharing your information with us. And please give us your website again, just in case anybody has more questions, because 25 minutes is really quick.
Yeah, that was great. The website is buildingcgroup.com. It's building as in building, C as in construction, group as a group.com. So buildingcgroup.com.
Any
And
parting words, my friend?
be safe, build well, and be healthy.
All right, groovy. Thank you, Scott.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you.
You're watching Living and Thriving with Rusty. I'm Rusty, and this is what I get to do 7 or 12 or 15 times a day. I don't know. I love doing this. I love bringing perspective, fresh energy, and new thoughts to you. Why? Because we need it. We also need more kindness. So go out and be kind. And you know what? If you happen to have a construction company that's annoying you at 8 o'clock in the morning, that's okay. They're working their butt off. But you can go to Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks and get one of those big things of coffee and drop it off and say, hey guys, have a good morning. Do something kind instead of complain. It's that simple. Less is more. Kindness is great. And until next time.